Right then, so it passed its MOT. That's good news. So that means it's got leaves in it. So we're still left with quite a lot to do, and we did find a few things from riding it the other day. The first one was, heard a bit of a noise coming from the front wheel, and that turned out to be when you tighten this up, one of the things you need to do, and I didn't, is you need to get a feeler gauge down between the caliper mounting bracket and the outside of this disc. I mean, literally it looks like part of the caliper, but it's actually the bracket. Let's see if I can get my finger on it. Right down in there. Okay, so you need to get a feeler gauge in there and just check the distance on them, make sure that they're as they should be, and if they're not, you need to physically move this in or out before you tighten that up. I hadn't done that, and the caliper arm was rubbing on the inside of the disc, so that was issue number one. Issue number two, if anybody could be bothered to watch that ride that I did with a very bouncy camera and no sound to speak of. So what you may have noticed me cranking away towards the end of it on the throttle and nothing much happening. So what seems to be happening is pretty good up to about the mid throttle point, and then when you crank it on and try to get all that power out of it, you just don't get it. I did have a brief period just after I'd set off, when I said giddy up and cranked it on, where yeah, it seemed to sit up and go. But we've still got a lot to do, and as I said when we first got this, the carbs need to come off. So I would think, my guess, and it is a guess right now, is that all of that is just dirty carbs and probably just some residual shitty fuel that's in it. Exhaust's not leaking, that's good. Back brakes are fine, front brakes are okay. One of the test items that we did come up with was just on the bottom of here. Let's see if we can see it. I hadn't noticed it. Just here, look. See that little bulge in that hose? If you squeeze the brakes really hard, that expands. So that brake hose needs replacing, and if I'm doing one, I'm doing both, and if I'm doing them, I may as well do this one as well. So we're going to put some new brake hoses on it. So item number one that we need. All the electronics seem to be fine. That is performing just as we want it to. The steering is really crisp, really responsive. I haven't thrown it around a lot yet. Still don't quite trust it. Still don't quite trust myself riding it. So, and then there's the obvious thing, which is the rattle coming from, I'm pretty certain, this timing chain. It doesn't sound too bad up the front, but that one definitely. So we got a couple of big jobs coming up on this before we can realistically take it anywhere. First job is, we're going to take those carbs out. That's going to give us a bit more room to play anyway. We're going to take those carbs out, and we're going to get some carb kits for them, and they're going to get stripped down and cleaned, and I'll film that stuff. Well, some of it, because a lot of it's boring, and you certainly don't want to be listening to a ultrasonic cleaner ticking away for about an hour. Then we'll do the tappets, which means we're going to take the radiator off, which is good because that gives us a chance to drain the cooling system, get any rust and sludge out of it. And then we also know that we've got a 50-50 mix, you know, a decent coolant mix in there when we put it back together. So we'll get the tappet covers off, we'll do the tappets, we can have a look at that chain. Now, if that chain's gone, I think I'm gonna just get one and split it and drag it through the engine, because I don't fancy right now taking this engine out and splitting it. I went out on it again this morning just to confirm a few things, but yeah, it runs really nice until you get it to about mid throttle point, and then it doesn't like it. So Let's see if we can quieten this rattle down. Put a new timing chain in, probably. It could be other stuff. But my guess at the moment is it's timing chain, so we'll have a look at that. We'll have a look at the spring and the tensioner, see if what that's like as well, see if we can find another one of those, although they seem to be getting pretty hard to get hold of at the moment. That back tyre's fine, it's coming back to life lovely, it's softened up quite nicely after riding it. Nothing else really to report, so they're the next jobs that we're going to do on it. As I said, carbs off, clean them. We're going to see if we can get an air filter for it as well, because that might's probably not helping. What else? We haven't changed the oil yet, which seems silly, but while it's rattling away like that and putting chunks of aluminium into the oil, not much point in putting some expensive oil in it. So we'll dump the oil, change the oil filter, change the air filter. We'll flush out the rest of the fuel that's in the tanks, just give them a flush out, get some fresh fuel in there, do the tappets, have a look at the timing chain, potentially do the timing chain. Well, we'll do that first, at which point it's doing the tappets, so we're going to be changing the timing chain. And we'll check obviously both of them, just make sure that we're getting rid of all the rattles, and hopefully the camshafts are all right, but again we'll find out while we're in there. So I think it's definitely well worth getting these tappet covers off and having a look. It could be a broken valve spring, not sure. So yeah, we're going to start and do some work on that engine. Realistically, I wanted to take this up to Scotland, but I really don't want to be riding it that far, making that amount of noise. It's not doing the engine any good. So it's MOT'd, it went through okay, oh, the other thing is, I'm going to have a go at getting these dents out of these tanks. I think that one will come out okay. That one, not sure. There's a small one on this side as well, so we're going to have a go at pulling them out, and then that'll be it for this year. So next update will be when we start doing that work there, on this bike anyway. I think what we're going to do next, I've got a couple of the bikes that are in line, so you're going to be seeing some of them. The V65 Magna you've already seen. I need to do the tappets on that, figure out why it's only running on 2 cylinders, and then get that MOT'd, and then we've got a bike to ride for the year. Well, we've got the VT500 Shadow, which is beautiful. So I've got a bike to ride, but I want to get that V45 Magna up and running, so we'll do that one. And I've got a 1981 CM250T that all it needs is a couple of O-rings changing in the carbs, so I just need to whip the carbs off of that, pull the cross tubes out of the carbs, change the O-rings. That one will be done, so you'll see that one too. All right, thanks guys.